Cool. All right, this is the July 12th blockchain meeting. We didn't have one last week due to the holiday and we were all busy, so just didn't schedule one. Let's go ahead and do mainnet check-in. I don't know if y'all been paying attention to stacksmining.club, but we're seeing 6 to 7 miners right now. We were at like 4, I think, a couple of weeks ago. So the recent rally, I guess, around Stacks. Plus, I know that Demon Tech has been meaning to spin up at least one more miner. I guess they got around to doing that, so hooray.
Yeah, that's a lot of growth.
Yeah, that's like, almost 2x growth. Other big mainnet item to talk about, and we can talk about this more in the discussion after we run through all the issues, is that it's come to my attention that at least at Hero, there is a design flaw in the HTTP server that can lead to congestion collapse. When the HTTP server was designed, the intended use of the HTTP server was that it would not spend very much time per request. It would basically be spending, small pieces of a block or a micro block, or it would send small amounts of data out of its database, and it wouldn't spend more than, like a millisecond or so servicing the request. That assumption led to the design of an HTTP server that has one thread, and it shares time with the P2P server as well. Since then, and since we've come to rely more and more on more heavyweight HTTP requests, this has become a problem because it's now possible that a slew of heavy HTTP requests that can take tens of milliseconds, if not longer, to complete, can actually starve the entire peer-to-peer network of its ability to respond to connections in a timely fashion, including peer-to-peer connections. So this leads to a cascading failure where the node is unable to talk to its neighbors and gets cut off by its neighbors and thus can't sync with the network. So that's my big focus this week, is going to be focusing on fixing the design of the HTTP server. So the P2P aspect of the network event loop is not tied to the speediness of the HTTP server, and B, making it so that we can have multiple executors running requests for the HTTP server, so that we don't have to worry about the node getting blown over by a handful of badly placed HTTP requests. That's for my end. Does anyone from Hero or anyone from the community want to add anything for the mainnet check-in?
Can I just ask something? So the HTTP server is part of the Rust code, right?
That's correct.
I see. We're just checking.
Would it be out of line to think about caching some requests for several seconds?
I think correct me if I'm wrong, Jay Wiley, but does the infrastructure at Hero at least already do that?
In some cases, yes, but I'm talking about on the blockchain side. I don't know how feasible it is, or if it's something that we even want to do. But I was reading, the whole point of this is I was reading interesting blog posts from Reddit Engineering over the weekend about how they deal with, like thundering herd type issues. And it's, it sounds, not too dissimilar to what we're seeing ourselves.
Yeah, it's certainly an option. Like the fact that you're serving data out of a blockchain means that as long as the blockchain state doesn't change, like as long as no new blocks get added, then yeah, technically nothing ever changes once it's loaded the first time, including things like contract calls or map queries or other sorts of otherwise what would normally be thought of as stateful backend processing is actually idempotent. We could weave that in. That could also be done on a reverse proxy as well. We'll have to play around with it. Really what we should be focusing on, though, when determining what to cache, is to actually get some performance benchmarks so we can identify precisely the slow paths that need to be better cached or better sped up. I have a few suspicions as to where they are, but I know that Hero has logs, and I know that at least when we talked about this on Friday, that was one of the next items of business, to try to figure out a sequence of repeatable benchmarks that could cause the node to fall over, and then think about what's our minimum performance baseline that we expect from the node.
Wait, to what extent are you fixing this problem now?
What's up?
To what extent are you going to be? Isn't this like a big problem? You're going to fix it right away, or you're going to fix a limited part of it?
Alarm error for me. Like I worked on this over the weekend. I'm going to work on this until it's done, basically.
I see. But like, do you want to make a design doc or get feedback on it?
I kind of already did. If you want to take a
Okay.
look at that issue, which we
Okay. I
did
see.
in the board.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Anything else on mainnet?
I see. Thanks.
How about testnet? We haven't finished the release up yet, right? So testnet hasn't been reset.
I think we're
Uh,
due for a reset today, or at least that was the plan.
Okay, cool.
And then on our end, we're tracking a separate issue. I don't know, Charlie, if we have any additional visibility into the microblocks deployment that we had internally on the testnet that's not making progress.
Correct. I updated the testnet and regtest API image Friday, and since then the follower node has been stalled. I did pull some logs from Kibana, and I posted what my findings right here. Yeah, I'm gonna follow up with Matt on that offline, unless people want to talk about it here.
And that's fine, just checking in.
Sorry, pulling it up right here. Sorry, what's the blocker on this, guys?
That's fine, Jude. I think this might be a Hero internal thing. I don't think we have any evidence that there is a Stacks blockchain issue just yet.
Okay, I'll just make that as a note here.
Yeah, it could also be just, I mean, like the way these nodes were set up was using this replay capability. They're not like syncing from scratch. So there's a bunch of other factors at play here that might be contributing, but we can follow up on our end.
Okay, moving on to the board then.
Before you do that, Jude, I just want to highlight for everyone on the call that we will be doing a testnet reset today,
Yep.
shortly after this meeting. Greg and I will be working on that together.
At around noon Eastern, so 1 hour from now. Brace yourselves, everyone.
Jay Wiley, are you gonna want any help for that?
Potentially, I'll let you know if I do.
Alrighty, let's go ahead and look at the board. Excuse me. Review in progress. So we got a PR here from Gregory to replace the cost with unimplemented and fix some build issues. So it was opened on Friday.
That's a small one.
Cool,
Just
cool.
some fixes.
Yeah, all it does is just, I think I took a look at this like last night. Okay. Yeah, I can take a look at this too. Good overview. Parse and assemble principles.
I feel like all my functions are kind of like moving through. Of all the clarity functions I took, most of them are kind of moving through pretty good, I think, with like the reviews and everything, and then me fixing. And then there's only one that's stuck, which is just the get burn chain header hash by burn chain height, which is kind of, I'm still working on. Aaron was helping me, but that's kind of for all my PRs are how I would summarize it.
Yeah, they've been going pretty quick. They're really nice and bite-sized, so it makes it easy to review.
Yeah. And then I think, thanks for all the reviews.
Oh, thanks for doing all the work. I left some feedback on Aaron's PR here. I still need to do a full review of it. Aaron, is there anyone else you want to take a full look at this? So you want to request for a reviewer?
Yes, another reviewer would be appreciated.
Yeah, I'm just going to
I
pull
don't
around.
have any specific people in mind, but yeah, I think any number of people could probably review it.
Cool. I'm just going to assign everyone then.
Yeah, and I think yeah, Greg, if you want to learn more about how POX is operating, I would say definitely take a look at this.
Okay, yeah, I could take a look at this one.
We're just blocked on resetting the testnet and figuring out the microblock sidecar API issue, right? For this release candidate being merged.
I don't
Yeah.
think the microblocks API is a blocker for the release candidate. We know that the microblocks deployment on mainnet is working fine. So again, if we find out otherwise that there is a blocker, maybe we can course correct. But right now, I don't think we have any information that that particular issue is a blocker for the release candidate itself.
Yeah, I think it's running on a different, on a feature branch as well. That's not being merged to develop. I could be wrong.
But when you say blocker for the release candidate, do you mean blocker for like the actual release?
Yes, I misspoke. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And then
Yeah, yeah. Cool. I think the only thing to keep in mind is, I guess, the next prepare phase starts in 79 hours. So if we're going to do a release, we should do it probably tomorrow is the latest we would want to go.
yeah.
Okay. Good point.
If not, it's fine to wait till after the prepare phase. Like, it's not a huge rush on it.
Yeah.
It's better to not risk the stability of POX.
Will this affect the testnet reset today, potentially?
I don't believe so. If you just, because as long as the testnet's just running this version here, it should be fine. There's not like any consensus breaking changes in it, so.
Wait, so what are we doing right now? We're like running it on the test net for X period of time and seeing if things are okay.
So
Hey,
I've
Wiley?
already, go ahead.
Oh, I was asking, well, it's like I was asking Jesse, I guess, but yeah, anyone. I mean, what are
Oh, yeah,
what are we
okay.
doing right now?
Yes, so starting around noon, we're going to fully reset the current live testnet with this release candidate 1 that we cut last week and that we've been testing internally. Now we're going to just update the current Stacks testnet with that version starting from Genesis. And yeah, and essentially we're just going to watch it and see if anything strange happens as we boot it up.
And then how long will this take? Because there's like the prepare phase, 79 hours or whatever.
I mean, hopefully we'll know very quickly that it's going to work great. But it's hard to say. We could see something pop up later on after a few blocks start coming in.
The new reward cycle length in testnet is 1,000 blocks, right?
Yeah.
Do we want to wait for the testnet to do 1 full cycle, or is that overkill, do y'all think?
Makes sense.
I mean, it would push the release back by 10 days or so. So I'm sorry, not 10 days, so more like, 7 days. I don't know, that's something you want to wait on.
Yeah, should we just plan to miss this next prepare phase or something? Or whatever, what's it called? The next
What?
prepare, should we just plan to miss it now, or should we try to make it? Or is it like better to be like safe about it?
I mean, I think I can tell you the foundation, we've spun up the release candidate here on both testnet as it exists now and mainnet, and it works just fine. So I think it's more like,
Yeah, if there's nothing blocking this release, like we should just do it today or tomorrow.
Yeah, and then when does it actually have to be in by 79 hours from now, or like 24 hours before 79 hours or something?
Yeah, I would say 24 hours before 79 hours from now. So
Okay,
yeah, about 50 hours.
would be the deadline.
Yeah.
Okay,
all right, so should we just aim for that?
okay, sounds good.
Get this released by this time tomorrow?
And everyone just also make a quick pass over the change log. And we really need to put in, like, enforce the conventional commits. It's really hard to go over the commit messages and figure out what exactly has changed if we're not a little bit diligent about that. I think we've captured most things, but I closed at least one issue that was fixed, that is fixed and developed, but wasn't marked as closed. There might be others in there. So if folks can just go through the change log one time.
Yep, that'd be appreciated.
Yeah, I did notice that for better or worse, I couldn't just lift the change log out of the commit messages or the PR descriptions. So it was good in the sense that maybe I had to think about it. Maybe it gets people to think about it, but it's bad in the sense that like maybe the author would be better at describing quickly what they did than someone else. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we should actually document this. If you're going to send a PR that makes it into release, it should be your responsibility to make sure that it's adequately described in the change log. So that way
Yeah.
that way the release manager isn't stuck having to hunt and pick through all of the merged PRs and all the commits trying to figure out what exactly it was you did.
Or put it in your description because it might not. Well, I don't know when the change logs. If you check into next, I mean, then what's gonna happen? Like, are you putting it into a change log right away?
Yeah, I think that we already have this in the README as a requirement for PRs.
Yep.
We just aren't very good at enforcing it. So
Okay, then we just need to be better at enforcing it. That should be like an acceptance criteria for subsequent PRs against develop.
Anyone
Yeah.
opposed to actually just starting to enforce conventional commits in our repo?
Yes, I'm opposed to it because it's micromanaging.
Which part of the, I thought I was kind of using them. Maybe I haven't been completely. So is there a part in the conventional commit protocol that would actually allow you to lift a certain string out as the change log?
Yeah, if you're all doing conventional commits, then there are lots of tooling that we're using in other repositories that can actually even generate the change log and pull out, the first line of the commit is like the summary line. And you can.
So I've actually done a lot of research into that, and the only, like, it does generate the change log, but it works with semantic versioning, which we're not using. So if we're not using semantic versioning, the whole thing doesn't work. So we would probably have to have our own tooling to work with our own version scheme.
Or we can just make sure that when you send a PR, you add the line in the change log file.
Mhm.
we could add a GitHub action that enforces that as a check.
Yep. That's a good idea if you want to add that.
I'll create an issue.
All right, add LLVM workspace member. This is,
It's libvm workspace member.
sorry, libvm.
Freudian
No worries.
slip. Jude is just looking to have LLVM in the blockchain.
No, God help me, no. The blockchain's already too complicated.
It uses LLVM to build.
It does. It's a build time dependency, but we shouldn't have LLVM in the VM itself. Okay, cool. So libvm, what is this here? Can you add a description to this, Reed?
Yeah, sure. Sorry about that. This was that change that Aaron had made, which creates like a separate workspace member for the VM. I wasn't quite sure if this was ready for review yet. It was in draft status initially, but yeah, I couldn't really think of any other changes that needed to be made here. This is like part of the VM refactoring work stream and shouldn't really change anything. It just potentially will allow us to depend on the VM from Clarinet and start messing around with that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great news. Yeah, do you want to go ahead and add that in the description so that way we can capture that in like the change log for the next release?
Sure.
Appreciate it. 1805. I addressed all of Aaron's feedback and brought this up to speed with the current next branch. And I re-requested review. So I'm just waiting for subsequent feedback on this. Slice function. Ludo, how are we doing on this?
Yeah, I did receive some feedback that I have to address. Yeah.
Alrighty.
So.
But no progress though.
I don't think that I will be able to do some progress this week, but probably the next week.
Okay, sounds good. Epoch initialization. I've already approved this. If someone else wants to give it a pass, I think this is blocking a bunch of other PRs still.
Yeah, I think Greg left some review comments that I addressed. I think it was just about sort of the structure of the tests. So yeah, just looking for another round of eyes.
Okay.
All right. Accurate runtime costs. I'm sorry, where is there? This is there's no PR for this, right? This is just the benchmark repository, right, Reed?
Yep.
Okay, how are we doing?
Yeah, maybe Pavi has an update here, but I don't have any updates since I went on vacation.
Yeah, Pavitra, how's the status of this?
Yeah, I finished creating benchmarking functions for all the analysis functions, as well as like some other ones. So we're pretty much narrowing down. This week I was going to work on creating benchmarks for the analysis passes, like definition sorter, all those other passes. Yeah.
Awesome. Pavi, I'll review that PR you have in today.
Yeah, I have to put an update for that one, but yeah.
On a scale of like 0 to 100%, how close are we to having full benchmarks? Would you all say?
What do you think, Pavi? Maybe like 90%?
I think a bit over 90 maybe. Yeah.
Awesome. And what are the next steps for this? Just so we can write it down in this issue here. We'll just
next steps. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I'm
go
sorry.
for it, Pavi.
Next steps are me and Reed are going to review every function together and make sure we're benching the right thing. Then we kind of have to finish his Jupyter notebook and make sure we're like calculating the fit for all of the functions based on all the times that we get. And actually before the Jupyter notebook step, we have to run the benchmarks on maybe 2 different machines. I'm not really sure, but we can figure that out. Yeah.
Additionally, there's a bit of work just making sure that some of the arithmetic functions don't overflow, like we had discussed in the code review last time. And then I think there were some questions about like how many blocks some of the like fake generated marks should have for the benchmarking.
cool. Just making sure this is written down. Alrighty. Sorry, where was I? Chains coordinator, revalidate anchor blocks against the POX bit vector on boot up. What did I say here? I'm actually going to have to revisit this. I'm not quite sure what. Yeah, I think when I wrote this issue, what I believed I had observed, but I'm no longer certain of because I've had a hard time reproducing it, was that if you manage to stop a node while it is bootstrapping and then restart it, we would want to make sure that all of the anchor block, the POX anchor blocks we find that are consistent with the sortition databases POX bit vector. I think there might be a race condition in the system where if you manage to stop the node after it processes an anchor block or after it processes a sortition, the sortition that contains the anchor block that begins a new reward cycle, but before you actually process the anchor block itself, you might end up in an inconsistent state. I'm not sure which actually happens. I'd have to go investigate this a bit more. I just noticed it when I was working on the last slew of fixes to the testnet to make it go faster. But it shouldn't be a problem that arises in most cases. It would only really, you'd only really notice it if you happen to get really unlucky if you stop a node that's in the process of bootstrapping. Okay, this is actually closed. Should do that. That got merged already. We're caching v2 info responses inside the node. This issue right here, the burn chain won't stop for Stacks 2.1. Blessing in disguise, the code in the burn chain block processor that's supposed to make the node stall out at Bitcoin blocks at 100,000 will actually never run. That's okay because we're actually getting rid of that anyway. We're going to replace it with the voting contract that allows stackers to upgrade the network, but this issue here just captures the fact that this is happening. I'll close this as soon as we have the voting contract ready. In initial block download, only require the downloader to check the last few reward cycles before advancing to the next reward cycle. This is addressed in the PR that I sent to develop. Jay Wiley, you had a chance to test the latest, right? The slow and failed syncing in testnet. Can this be closed out?
Yeah, I would say so.
Sweet.
Yeah, we tested that, was that 27, 25? Make it bigger on my screen. Yeah, 27, 25 was good. When we did the full RC, we still had the same issue, but it was explained. So I say we're good to go and closing it.
All right, thanks. And don't do a full inventory scan on POX divergence. This was part of the source of the slowness, especially evident on testnet, because there are so many reward cycles to go through. So this was addressed in the PR that I sent in to resolve the slow testnet boot up. So go ahead and close it here. Backlog, modification of mining module. It's not really any progress on this. We'll come back to this later. Oh, thanks, Aaron, for opening this. Add a GitHub action for enforcing changelog changes. I mentioned this earlier. The high HTTP traffic on nodes can cause a congestion collapse. I'm working on that this week. Ken opened this issue last week about, so he noticed that when he stops and starts a mining node, it will stop mining when it restarts. The only change he made is that mine microblocks is set to true. But if you follow the if you follow the sequence of replies here, the mine microblocks equals true flag isn't actually used in the code. So this is not the root cause, it's something else. I haven't gotten any more information from him about like debug logs or verifying that his node actually thinks of itself as a miner or anything. I'm pretty sure he's actually mining right now on the main net. So I'm guessing this is, if he doesn't get back to me by this time next week, I'll just go ahead and close this issue. Gate the definition sorter pass. Aaron, do you want to talk about this a bit more?
Yeah, sure. So as part of all of these Clarity 2 changes for Stacks 2.1, we have a bunch of gated calls when various things do function lookups, like native function lookup, native variable lookups. So in most analysis passes, these calls are gated on the current Clarity version, but the definition sorter is not. There's two reasons for this. One is that the definition sorter, it doesn't behave quite like many of the other analysis passes in that there's actually very few functions that it needs to check against, like they're sort of special case functions. And the reason for this is these are functions where the arguments aren't actually evaluated as such, like they're not doing like a lookup, like a name doesn't mean the same thing in these functions as it does elsewhere. These are things like tuple constructors, stuff like that. And so long as a Clarity version doesn't require any changes in the definition sorter, it's perfectly fine to not gate this call because it won't change anything about its operation. But that's not guaranteed to be the case going forward. So we probably should gate this call. Now, there's a second reason not to gate this call, and that's because the definition sorter is actually part of the AST construction. And right now, the AST is like doesn't have the same context awareness that the actual analysis passes do. So like the AST parser right now doesn't need to know like what the chain state currently is. If we wanted to gate the definition sorter, which probably do, and we probably want to gate the whole AST construction anyways, because like, let's say we wanted to change something about Clarity syntax in the future, like we would need to pass that in. Yeah, so, you know, plumbing this through would be a little bit painful, but it's the pain that we should probably accept at some point.
Is the pain mainly due to piping in access to the Clarity, underlying Clarity database into the AST module?
Maybe, I mean, the way that I would recommend doing it is just like passing the AST. So like when you parse basically you give the AST parser a string and then it returns an AST. What I would recommend doing is just like requiring that you give it a string and a Clarity version rather than like a database handle.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, because we wouldn't
Yes.
want to apply.
Yeah, passing it a database handle would probably be, yeah.
Is this just
Yes.
about like the annoyance of plumbing stuff, or is there something fundamental like if contracts of different versions call each other or something?
No, it's basically just the annoyance of plumbing stuff. There is a little bit of a fundamental thing where when we add a pragma, so like right now, all we're doing is like setting a default Clarity version for every contract. But like in Stacks 2.1, we want to be able to still create like Clarity version 1 contracts. And so that would have an impact on the AST. But like to determine like what the declared version of the contract is already requires a little bit of parsing. So we would need to do like an initial parse to get that pragma out. You can think of it like basically compile time pragmas in any other language. Like when you do like a defined constant in C or something like that, like there's actually an initial parse that goes through and just finds those constants.
So is this what you're planning to make?
I think that would be part of the plan for the pragma issue. Like it's
I could vote. I could
separable
really
from
vote
this.
either way. If it's a huge amount of work, I could vote either way until it's really necessary. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Either way, this isn't blocking progress on any of the existing PRs on Clarity, right?
No.
Cool. I think that's it for the new issues here. I see we have a bunch of stuff in 2.1 that can get moved over, so let's go ahead and open that work stream. So reviewing progress. I think this is done, right, Greg? The string and buffer comparison.
That one's not in though.
It's not in yet.
It's not in yet.
Okay. But these are.
It's pretty far. I think it's approved by everyone. It's just not in, I think.
Okay. But the rest, so how about a Stacks transfer memo here?
Stacks transfer memo is not in.
Okay. None of these are in?
Maybe some are. I could I'll make sure I clean up whichever ones are in. Is that what I'm supposed to do, is close them? Or you like to move
Yeah,
it in?
if you could close them, actually, that'd be great. Once they get merged to Next, you can go ahead and close the issue.
Okay. If that's, yeah, I'll just do that. I mean, yeah, string to int, but we don't have to go through the particular ones right now
Okay.
if you don't want to.
Yeah. Feel free to just do it asynchronously then. Basically, I'm just trying to make sure that like all the issues tagged for Stacks 2.1 get closed as we get them merged in, so that way we know what's left to do for the 2.1 release.
Yeah, I mean, I'll close them, and then also there's a bunch that are approved. I'm just kind of, I don't know, getting them in one at a time. So I'll
Yeah,
close
no
them all.
worries. We don't have to do this right now. Just make sure you're aware is all. Aaron, can I move this to review in progress, Stacks extend?
Yes.
Cool. That's still in progress. The Stacks decrease. Are we going to be? Is this started yet, or are we just not going to do it, or what's our thoughts on it?
Hasn't started yet. In progress would be like stack increase.
Right. I don't think we have an issue for that yet, though.
We should. Yeah, there it is.
Yes, we do. Migration logic. This, I guess, is kind of almost like a non-issue now because we're making users restack, right? So what do y'all think of this?
I would say that that's maybe even review in progress. Like we could probably close it once that PR of mine merges to Next.
Sounds good. Sorry, I'm just looking through this here. Type aliases, I know we haven't started yet. Fees, I'm not sure we're even going to touch that. Mind closing it, but let's see. Burn chain block height types. I'm not sure that's even a 2.1 issue. Wire rigidity, read-only functions. No, we haven't started. Speaking of, sorry, bringing this back to our attention here. Do we ever want to support user burn supports? Should we have an issue somewhere just to remove them from the code base for 2.1?
We can just remove them from the code base without a consensus breaking change. So doesn't even need to be 2.1.
Sounds good. I'm going ahead and just add an issue for that.
Yeah. I think it probably requires some discussion and probably some updates to SIPs because we talk about it in a lot of places.
I agree. I think that maybe it should be done as part of the 2.1 SIP, perhaps. Just get it all in once. We'll see. These aren't started yet. Do we have, do you know the product status of stack unlock is, Aaron? Is that still waiting here?
That's still under to do.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're not doing interposition anymore, right? We're just directly calling stacks, sorry, POX v2.
Yeah, that's correct.
So we can close this then.
Yeah, I think just comment that we're not going to do any contract call interpositioning.
Cool. Awesome. Query POX consensus data from Clarity. I almost think this might need to be broken into a handful of new issues here. But it hasn't started either way yet. Do we want to actually, just a quick question for the other participants working on this here. The idea of querying the, oh, oops, we have a separate issue for this. Is this a dupe? So we don't have a plan in place for having a .pox info contract that's separate. Maybe we don't need one. Maybe it's simpler to just add new methods to POX v2.
Yeah, we can either add new methods to POX v2, or in instances where they need to be like native functions, we can do that. Yeah, because like there's this, I added the new native function like stx get account or something, which was like kind of included in this issue, but
okay.
Yeah, I think. Just adding this to POX v2 is probably the way to do it.
That's just, excuse me, that's the remainder of this work here, right? Excuse me.
I think so.
We don't want to add a way to, sorry, there's another thing here that Ludo had listed. We don't want to add something like the list of recipients, like the burn chain recipients.
We probably do.
Okay, so should we just add this to this issue over here then?
Is it already discussed in this issue?
I guess this is it, address lock information.
Yeah. I don't know. We can combine these all into one issue. It doesn't really matter. Yeah.
All right, I'll go ahead and close this out here then as a dupe.
Just make sure to like copy the text over, because like getter for address lock information could probably be interpreted differently. So.
All right. All right. we kind of have made some progress on this here, right? Getting access to default cost functions. I think right now we just have the unimplemented placeholder, but is there future work on this that's in flight for making it so that 2.1 built-ins have access to 2.1 cost functions?
This is work that still needs to be done, and I don't think it's in progress right now.
Alrighty. All right, I think that's it for the to-dos here. These 5 issues look good for in progress. I think these are just waiting to be closed out as soon as the corresponding PERs are closed out. All right, any items for discussion that we haven't hit already? All right, everyone know what they're doing this week?
Yeah, I have stuff to do.
All right, cool, go ahead and stop the recording.